Just minutes ago, the political world was shaken. A breaking announcement from Downing Street has left millions stunned, angry, and asking one question: what happens next? This is the story of how rising pressure, public outrage, and weeks of uncertainty led to the sudden resignation of Prime Minister Keir Starmer. It was an ordinary morning across the UK. People were making tea, preparing for another day, and scrolling through the latest headlines on their phones. But at 8:59 a.m, everything changed. A short, unexpected message from number 10 appeared across every major news channel. The Prime Minister will make a statement shortly. At first, no one knew what to expect. Over the past few weeks, pressure had been building around Keir Starmer and his leadership. Public frustration was rising, major decisions were being questioned, and protests had started to grow in cities across the country. Still, even with all the tension, very few believed the Prime Minister would walk away. Not today, not without warning. At 9:01 a.m, the doors of Downing Street opened, cameras flashed, reporters pushed forward, and then Keir Starmer stepped out. His expression was calm but tired, almost as if he had made peace with something long before the rest of the country had. He approached the podium, looked directly into the cameras, and after a brief pause said the words no one expected to hear so soon. After listening closely to the people of this country, I am announcing my resignation as Prime Minister. The world froze. Social media exploded within seconds. News presenters were left speechless, searching for words to match the moment. For many, it felt like the end of a chapter that had been filled with hope, frustration, and dramatic political twists. But this resignation was not sudden for Starmer himself. Behind the scenes, a wave of public dissatisfaction had been growing louder every day. Petitions calling for his resignation had gained hundreds of thousands of signatures. Videos of critics went viral. Even members of his own party had begun quietly questioning whether he could continue to lead effectively. As his speech continued, Starmer spoke about responsibility, about listening to the country, and about the weight of leadership. He admitted the public had lost confidence and that trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. His voice remained steady, but his words revealed a deeper truth. He understood that staying in office would only fuel more division. Behind the crowd of reporters, the atmosphere was mixed. Some looked shocked, others nodded, as if this was the outcome they had predicted for weeks. Ordinary people watching from home felt everything from relief to worry. For many, it was a moment of uncertainty. Leadership changes bring hope for some, but anxiety for others, especially in times when the nation feels divided. By the time Starmer finished his statement, the UK was already shifting into the next political phase. The questions had started flooding in. Who would take over? Would there be a general election? What would this resignation mean for the country's future? But one thing was clear. This moment wasn't just about politics. It was about public voice, public pressure, and a growing feeling that the people wanted a different direction. And so, just minutes after the announcement, the UK found itself standing at the edge of another turning point, one that would reshape the nation's political landscape for years to come. In the days leading up to Keir Starmer's resignation, the signs were there, even if many chose not to believe them. Across the UK, frustration had been building like a slow, heavy storm. People felt unheard, promises seemed unfinished, and confidence in leadership had begun to fade. What started as scattered complaints online soon grew into something much louder, a national demand for change. It began with small protests, just a handful of people outside local council buildings holding handwritten signs. But within a week, those small gatherings had multiplied. In London, Manchester, Birmingham, Glasgow and Cardiff, crowds started to form. They were teachers, nurses, students, pensioners and ordinary working people, all united by one clear message: we want accountability. Social media only added fuel to the movement. Videos from protests spread quickly. Hashtags calling for Starmer's resignation climbed to the top of trending lists. Everyday citizens were recording themselves, sharing their frustrations, telling personal stories about how political decisions had affected their lives. Their voices were raw, honest, and difficult to ignore. Polls showed support for Starmer dropping sharply. Newspapers ran headlines questioning his future opposition parties sought an opportunity, while members of his own party quietly worried about the growing unrest. Many MPs received thousands of messages from constituents demanding they take a stand. Some MPs publicly defended the Prime Minister, but others began to distance themselves, feeling the political ground shifting beneath them. Behind closed doors, advisers warned Starmer that the situation was becoming unstable. Not only was the public losing faith, but party unity was weakening. Every day brought new criticism, new questions, and new pressure. It wasn't one single mistake that caused this crisis. It was the accumulation of many small issues that finally became too heavy to carry. Journalists described it as a slow political crumble. Commentators on late-night programmes debated whether the Prime Minister could survive the mounting public anger, and across the country, people were no longer asking if he should resign, they were asking when. The turning point came when one of the largest public petitions in recent history crossed a major milestone. Over 1 million people had signed it, demanding Starmer step down. It was impossible to ignore. Even supporters admitted that the government was struggling to regain control of the narrative. By the night before the resignation, the pressure had reached its peak. Advisers met in emergency discussions. Senior party figures spoke privately about the damage being done. And Starmer himself, after hours of reflection, seemed to accept what the nation already sensed. Trust had been broken, and leadership without trust cannot last. When the news finally came the next morning, many felt a strange mix of emotions. Some celebrated, some worried about what came next, others simply felt relieved that the uncertainty might finally move toward resolution. But the message behind the resignation was bigger than one politician. It showed that public voice still held power, that people, when united, could push their concerns to the very heart of government, and that leadership in the UK, no matter who holds the office, depends on the confidence of the nation. This was not just a political moment, it was a reminder of the strength of democracy, the impact of public opinion, and the way ordinary people can shape the future of a country.